Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning to everyone. Let's start, albeit with a few minutes delay. Thank you for your patience. My introduction will be very short. First of all, I would like to thank all those who collaborated in this initiative. First and foremost, the colleagues of Città Metropolitana, Roma Capitale, our director, whom I don't want to cover, who has allowed us to embark in this journey amongst various disciplines that we'll be doing today. The president of the Association of Architects and Landscape Architects, and last but not least, the WSEI University of Lublin, which over these 5 years has coordinated us, both from a scientific and management point of view, thanks to Monika and Magda here in this long journey of research, application, and experimentation. What are we going to do today? I'd like to invite you all to put your thumb, raise your thumb in front of your eyes, and then please close your right eye first and look at your thumb, and then your left eye and look at your thumb again. What happens probably, as you may have noticed, you've seen your thumb, even though it was still, you've seen it move. A change in perspective. Those who deal with design and animation are familiar with this effect. So changing perspective allows us to see things differently. And this is the challenge that we'll be undertaking today, thanks to the various speakers who will be taking the floor today, who have different backgrounds, have a different kind of educational and different experiences, but each of them will bring a different perspective, focusing essentially on how workplaces centered on the individual can make our way of learning and working and being well with the others and the world better. So I'd like to thank you. Mr. Stefano Carta.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning to everyone. I am Stefano Carta. I'm the director of the department that deals with training and sustainable development and the National Recovery and Resilience Plan for the City of Rome. I'd like to thank all of you and all those who contributed to the organization of this important initiative of this day and tomorrow's day too, and which will be focusing on discussing together from various points of view on the challenges that need to be taken up, especially amongst those who hold a responsibility in the public sphere to assure a future, a development, be it economic and social, that is sustainable of our territories. So I would like to thank everybody, and I bring the greetings of the mayor of the city, and the deputy mayor will be joining us, Pierluigi Sanna, who will give his address and will bring the political view of the government of the City of Rome. The starting data that we have are very significant. Cities occupy only 3% of the surface of our planet, account for 55% of the world population, account for 75% of energy consumption, and produce 80% of CO2 emissions. So they are environments and contexts where it is absolutely essential to have an innovative approach that is as sustainable as possible to ensure a good quality of life. So the central themes of our department are sustainability, resilience, and therefore development of a territory that tries to combine all the interests so protection of the environment, but development of the urban context, that is a recovery of the environmental context and a different quality of life, together with the concept of beauty. The actions through which the metropolitan city governs this challenge are innumerable. I will just like to mention the ones in this context that are more in line with the topics that will be discussed here today, namely some projects financed with the funds of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. I'm referring to the integrated urban plans and forestation actions. From this point of view, it's important to underline that these actions are important not only because of their environmental impact, the environmental impact that they will produce, because we're bringing woods inside the city again. But in this way, we're trying to increase the nature or natural elements in our city. These actions are very ambitious. We have just submitted the projects that will be implemented over the coming years. And since we're talking about forestation, we have to wait, of course, until the plants grow, but we're talking about actions that will be carried out together with the Ministry of the Environment in collaboration with the division of the Carabinieri that is specialized in the environment, and Rome will see 1 million trees planted over the coming 2 years. So an unprecedented event in our history. Another major project, another area in which we'll be intervening, are integrated urban plans that fall within a different context, where the goal is always to combine social inclusion, solidarity, economic development, and in particular, the municipality of Rome is aiming at creating 68 civic and cultural districts that will be drivers for cities, proximity services for citizens. So the goal is to bring services from the center out towards the suburbs, and I'm talking about various services, smart working, places of recreation, places of culture that can be recovered, to recover beautiful sites and places, something that has been lost over the past year. So there isn't just the issue of maintenance and functionality, but also providing a visual context and an immersive context that is based on solidarity and functionality, but can be perceived positively by people, the people who will be living in these places. So we'll be creating a network of civic and cultural districts in the city, throughout the city, so within the city of Rome itself, but also in other metropolitan municipalities. And we'll be creating another action project that concerns sports districts and support to frail individuals, because in the suburbs what is missing are places where people can share experiences, meet, and experience the values of sport and well-being and health, and that can be fully accessible and usable by everyone. So these will be contexts where, or settings where, a wide range of activities will be carried out, and this will be made available to citizens. So these actions putting the individual at the center of the initiative, and the idea of opening up to the territories. And there's also a new idea of public spaces. So within the city of Rome, they would like to obviously take on a central role in rethinking urban spaces and public spaces and cities in general. So this is the topic that will be tackled in the course of these days, and I'll be following the contributions of each speaker with great interest. Everybody will bring a different perspective. I'd like to close my contribution, which it serves more as introduction, just a message of attention and presence of Rome, the metropolitan city of Rome, which is the largest in Europe with over 4 million inhabitants. So a very significant reality by referring to the three principles of Vitruvius, who said that architecture is not just a matter of geometry, but has to do with the designing of human relations, both in public and private spaces. And this is why it is possible. And that's why he claimed that every work has to be last, useful and beautiful. Thank you.
Va bene. Allora,
the Pro-Rector of the University of Lublin will bring his contribution now. Good morning. I don't speak Italian, and I don't understand it very much either.
Tomasz, Wolowiec. Since this academic year, I'm a new Pro-Rector for research and international cooperation. So I'd like to say that we are very glad to be here, and on behalf of our university and all academic staff, I'd like to welcome all partners and participants of sensitive career management and sensitive workplace design. For us, as a leader of this project, is a great honor to be a co-organizer and partner of this great project. Also, congratulations for Metropolitan City of Rome for such perfect organization and interesting program of our conference. We believe that final conclusions and final results of our conference will be inspiration for us in process of creating and of course improving more sustainable and people-friendly world in all dimensions of our lives. So all the best to you, and warm greetings from Poland. Thank you so much.
The last two contributions to close this opening session will be the president of the Association of Architects, and who is also in charge of training. Good morning. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Metropolitan City of Rome that has asked us to coordinate. I'd like to thank Maria Fabiani and Mr. Carta. First of all, why is it our interest to take part in these topics? Vitruvius was mentioned, so what better reason than that? Now, obviously, the topics of great interest because some topics have been mentioned which, at a professional level, we deal with every day. They talked about integrated urban plans, and as an association we have a number of activities that we pursue, and amongst these there is innovation. Later, our concern, Paolo Anzolino will give us an overview of the activities we're carrying out. I'll just mention one, which is one of what we intend to do, i.e. to create an incubator for our colleagues who want to engage in innovation and create startups and put them and create a system in an increasingly international traditional landscape in Rome, we are accustomed to looking around and perceiving reality as very local. Rome is made up of very neighborhoods. Sometimes you see the Baroque city, the historical city center, but we know that every neighborhood has its own community, its own life, and its own interests, and perhaps sometimes limited internal interests. But on the other hand, there is an opening that the city has and has to have, because it's a city seen for its wealth throughout the world, but also because it has a range of services, especially international ones, and it has to learn to look ahead, because one of the issues that is at the attention of us is the attractiveness of European capitals. We know that welcoming and managing a city properly means bringing economy to the city itself. European capitals are aware of this, and the great economic counterparts look at these aspects because they look at broader systems. And therefore, even in a situation where Italy and Rome in particular have huge funds, because I'd always like to recall that we'll have the Jubilee in 2025. Let's keep our fingers crossed for Expo 2030, and we'll have another Jubilee in 2033, and Rome is one in Italy, and Rome is one of the main beneficiaries. We have all the funds of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, which is giving huge economic flow to all the public authorities, the municipality of Rome, the Metropolitan City of Rome, and the Lazio region that are investing a great deal in the city. So this city needs to learn and needs to look at all the aspects that we'll be discussing today. I always quote other examples. We come from a period where, especially in Lazio, the interest was focused on residential areas. Now there isn't this thrust towards residential areas, and the focus has shifted to other activities and districts too. And the mention of integrated plans is more than correct and more than fair, because through these plans that have more streamlined procedures compared to our plans, our master plans that involve great bureaucracy and red tape, they can really change parts and pieces of the city, and this is already taking place with a number of proposals that we can see. We see this ourselves as the Association of Architects. We have seen the possibility of investing through design and planning competitions. We're doing this by also backing the municipality of Rome in various initiatives. For example, the Museum of Science, which for us Romans may seem something new, but actually the Museum of Science dates back to an old project by Panci and at our premises, because the premises of our association, which is the House of the Architecture of Rome, which falls within an area that was part of the Museum of Science. So starting again means looking at something that goes beyond residential areas. So having areas or business districts within a built heritage like ours means having that kind of appeal that Rome needs to have and needs to keep on having among the various topics. I can mention technology that can help us overcome a number of limits that we've always had within the city. And so I have to say that given the structure of the program, I think that over these 2 days we'll have the opportunity to investigate the main topic tied to workplaces and co-working, but at the same time understand how these spaces within the city's fabric, how much they can contribute to change the face of the city from the perspective of innovation. Thank you.
Allora, si sente?
Can you hear me? So, thank you to all participants, and I really wish you a fruitful work. And my task, after the authoritative speakers, is just to give you a general idea, so the bird's eye view of the day. So you know that this initiative is within the European Year of Competence and Skills of 2023. It follows research activity carried out by the Metropolitan capital city of Rome in the last 5 years within a European context. And the main focus is sensitive architecture, co-working spaces, following the indication of this very important European project, which is a new European Bauhaus project. So this is just to set the framework. We will have 2 sessions, and I hope you will stay with us all through the day. And what is our goal today? It is to find working methodologies and tools in order to design for well-being. Well-being in general terms, because we refer to the well-being of the individual, then the well-being of the community, and then the well-being of all the space around us. And well-being, which is a very general term, includes and this is not my humble opinion, but is the opinion of the European Bauhaus, includes also sustainability, which refers to circularity in terms of use of resources, quality of what we achieve, paying attention to aesthetics, well-being at the different levels, and then last but not least, inclusion with 2 main concepts like accessibility and the cost effectiveness. So this is just to set the stage, and we have been organizing together with the different entities that are represented here. We tried to really try and organize a meeting that might be fruitful, useful for discussion and for future work together, also in different fora. So very briefly, in the morning, we will have the first session with connective skills. What are these connective skills? That is to say, the ability of architects, mainly we're here as architects, to interact with other professions that are involved in the productive process. So try and interconnect not only with one's own industry or profession, but also with the other professions that can improve the so-called collective general well-being I mentioned before. And then the previous speakers already mentioned it very well. Even if briefly, we will speak of integrated urban plans. Then we will have an authoritative colleague, Paolo Ratti, who will speak about material dematerialization and urban dematerialization, sorry. And then we will show a practical case, a case study. So how can we have sensitive planning of workplace? And this is Enel headquarters in Via Regina Margherita. This is just a case study. And what we are discussing was applied in this project. We have many speakers, so without further ado, I would like to say that I'm staying with you all day long as a coordinator on behalf of the architects of Rome, but also because I'm very much interested and convinced that it would be a very fruitful day of work. Before I give the floor, I would like to say that we strongly believe, we really believe in the principles mentioned by the European Bauhaus project. That's why we are here.
Allora, ben ritrovati.
So, welcome back. No, really, stay there. So, if you agree, I would like to proceed as follows. I would like to start with two presentations, because this panel is clearly showing how we want to have different point of views. And we have an architect, an inventor, and we have Professor Monika Baryła with us, who is our scientific coordinator. And she is one of the top experts of environmental sensitivity, which is not environment doesn't mean rivers or lakes or landscape, but is strongly connected with a set of theories about susceptibility, sensitivity, etc. So we will just get down to sensorial appreciation and sensitivity. So we'll start with Paolo Anzuini, and then he'll give the floor to Monika Baryła, and then we'll have a discussion. We have also some people connected remotely, so they might also ask questions. Thank you very much. Can I stand? Yes, please, do stand. So, good day. And thank you very much for being here in person and remotely. I would leave aside all what was said before from an institutional viewpoint that, of course, agree. The Association of Architects agrees and supports all the things that have been done in the last few years, and we will keep going for the next 2 years. So I would like to thank the organization, the organizing committee, that paid great attention in designing these 2 days of intense work together. And when they asked me to be one of the panelists, well, at the beginning I was a little bit shy, and I had to think that certain things that I have to say should not be taken for granted, and therefore I would like to highlight them together. So, what is my topic today? What would I like to discuss with you in this wonderful place? Well, this is something that I tried to design to start these 2 days together. Why do I start from Renaissance? I start from Renaissance because Renaissance in Italy is coming a peculiar historical period after Middle Ages. We have this imagination of a completely different future, this projection into the future, which was breaking apart with the past. Renaissance is something peculiar in Italy. And what is it? It is a period of more than 100 years, and in these 100 years, we have individuals that are placed at the center of this progress, this direction, this movement to the future. In 1421, an architect has this first patent. So there is a first time the link between an idea and the value of this idea, a patent. First patent in 1421. The Prince of Florence acknowledged his rights and gives intangible value to this idea. And then, of course, intangible value will turn into something tangible. The first patent that was acknowledged is for Filippo Brunelleschi, who was an architect. Why do I start with this? And we will see the gradual evolution of this concept. Because patents, which are invention and are recognized in about 200 countries of the world, so almost all countries on Mother Earth, the father or the mother of the work is only a human being, while ownership can be transferred from one person to another. Patent is the human intellect usability. What are the consequences of all this? Economic changes, and when I said it, and I tried to be consistent with the topic of today, trying to understand what happened in that historical moment, what type of intelligence was used for human activity at that time. And I defined it subjective intelligence, that is to say personalization, power that is linked to that particular moment, where dynasty, personal relations, and personal goals were very clear. We had the Pope, princes, kings, etc., etc., just name it. It was what we call subjective intelligence. In Rome, of enlightened popes, we have some urban planning and some buildings that are directly connected with the name of some popes, some enlightened popes. And this is what we call subjective intelligence. What happened? At the end of the 19th century, we have the revolutions, what we call revolutions. The first is well known all over the world as what we call the Industrial Revolution. And what happens? This is a different mechanism of conceiving work. So work is associated with machinery. It's not only the human being or animals that are working, but they are supported by machines. And inventions are just booming around. We have economic changes and impact. And of course, economic changes are crucial. Why? Because we have serial production, industrial production. And where does it happen? In England. And we have a process of collective intelligence. So no longer subjective intelligence, but we need to have a social fabric that can collaborate, work together, have a specific direction. Of course, I do not have time to get into all details. And there is a shared learning. So we must be aware of what is happening. And giving you an example of the previous period, the Pope had no skills or no interest in knowing painting, sculpture, or architect. He was just a visionary, and he paid for this. He was a patron of arts. So we start building this common goal, and collaborative decisions are starting. What happens next? 100 years, or perhaps a little bit more afterwards. We are used to define digital revolution in the following way. What is it? It is the introduction of old machines. So let's say transformation of old machines into computers. We still have machines, but these machines are associated no longer with the mechanical work, but we try to associate it also with computational tasks. Invention exploded, really mushrooming at the end of the 60s and the beginning of the 21st century. We have the mushrooming, the explosion of invention. And what does it entail? Digital revolution is the first consequence, brings about, the first consequence, which is specific codes that enable connection all over the world, what we call globalization. Here we see what I call interactive intelligence. Why? Because here we see that there is an economic goal, globalization, shared decisions, connections, training, that is really a key pillar today and perhaps in the coming 100 years, and then T-skills. Why did I add T-skills? Because as in the first slide in my presentation, 2023 is a year of competences and skills, and the Association of Architects of Rome, as President Panci rightly said, aims at implementing an incubator where architects and other professionals, because the incubator will not only be accessible by architects, but we want cooperation amongst different professionals, and so we have both architects and non-architects, and therefore T-skills, they are very important. I do not dwell upon T-skills, but I invite you to further understand what they mean, and then go to M skills. Try to learn both what T and M skills mean. At the beginning of the 21st century, I imagined this color revolution. Historically, it is associated with the former Soviet Union, but you have to see it in terms of colors that are linked to the strategies, imaginary skills, etc. What is color revolution? It's green revolution, the blue revolution, the pink revolution, the black revolution. And if I say green is very intuitive, if I say blue is less intuitive, because of course it doesn't refer only to the C revolution, but something else. So, and then what are the implications, social implications? Patents are fundamental, essential, because in each revolution we need innovation. In all revolution, even the pink revolution, Councillor Roberta Bocca has a very important task within the Association of Architects, which is not only training, education, but also running a commission for equal opportunities. In pink revolution, the gender certification have become very important to support this pink revolution. Of course, there are also economic changes, and now I'm very interested to say that green revolution is no longer a revolution like the previous one that is only focused on profit. And you have already seen firsthand, or with your friends or clients, how much we're willing to pay a premium price or do something more if this product or this something is consistent with my collective goal. This is connective intelligence. So I had these journey with you from subjective to connective intelligence. And what is connective intelligence is completely different. And thank you very much for using this term that is very much future-oriented, but it's very actual as well. So we have seen invention, patents. Here we have problem solving and creativity, and these are somehow separate, as if I've cut them into problem solving, solving technical problem, and creativity, two different things. Why? Because we need more skills. Of course, T skills are the current skills, and sometimes creativity can generate solution to technical problems, of course, with one-to-one interconnection. Communication is different because while in this color revolution, communication, of course, is essential. Learning is also crucial because I don't need only to communicate, but I also have to try and communicate in an effective way. So that there is a sort of learning curve. Critical thinking is also essential. So we should not take everything for granted. And this happened with Google. I just mentioned the example of Google. But today, the real problem of search engines, and specifically Google, is to understand. So we must be critical, have critical thinking in order to understand whether the first result by Google matches reality. I don't know whether you followed this mechanism. And then there is vision. What is the next revolution? And here there is what we are here for, so our discussion today and tomorrow. So the next revolution, people manager will be increasingly important. And the people manager will no longer only manage work, but manage people, individuals, temperament traits, behaviors, etc. is important. So the weight of the personal relationship you have with people you work with. What is the weight of personal relationship? Sometimes there are mechanisms that do not improve the working place because you don't like your co-worker, or perhaps there is a mismatch because of family or personal reason and something you do. So people manager really will have a crucial role. Metaverse can really trigger some new future mechanism. Knowledge, of course, will be the starting point for everything. So you have to know no longer education, but knowledge. And then interplay or interaction, time. And if I have time, I can dwell on each item. Tell me if I'm too long and okay, I'll be rushing through then. What does it imply? What is the risk for us that all the intelligence that we mentioned the last 600 years today now tell us that they might coincide with artificial intelligence, with AI. But AI is only data, 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 data. All the plethora of data, it's us. Now I rush through. And I think that because of these reasons, we have to review. I said it from the very beginning. So I don't know what we'll have in the next session, but I have to mention co-working, because working, the term working work is completely different. Co-working is not collaboration, but is cooperation. Sometimes those who are within cooperation dynamics, paradoxically, sometimes they do not carry out the activity that might be associated to what we call work. So the most appropriate term for the future of what we call co-working today would be, the future term is cooperation. So what are, and you will see this in the next session, so I'm rushing through again, I tell you. But who are involved? Who are the stakeholders? So freelancer, entrepreneurs, change maker, remote workers, etc., etc. So just to conclude, WeWork is currently the startup, the unicorn in we say in jargon unicorn, where a startup is above 1 billion value, and WeWork is central to the topic we discuss in these 2 days. WeWork is the startup that reached the highest historical value. At a certain point between 2018 and 2021, WeWork was 47 billion value, 47 billion dollars, sorry. This was its value. And then I give the floor to other speakers. I close. What happened in 1990? Internet. Then the first co-working setting that generated startup patents and incubators. This was B2B model that we all know. What happens in 2023? Fast internet, incubators, co-working. Sometimes the term coincides that generate startup and patents. And this has happened in the B2C models. And Google patents is example. If you just for fun, you click Google patents, you will see that Google has a platform that is only about patents, and it's Google Patents, same name plus patents, and this is B2C mechanism. What is the future? And I close. In 2050, and we're getting ready to have ultra-fast internet, people will be crucial. As the director rightly said, people, only people can invent. We cannot expect that AI generate patents. Invention is only done by human intellect. And all this will bring about cooperation, startups for B4C mechanism. And this is now up to you, and look for it in literature. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Microphone is off. So please mute your smartphones, including texting and apps and chats, because this interferes with the conversation we're having. Thank you. And I'd like to invite all the speakers to stick to the allotted time. And then afterwards, we'll have a timer that can help us so that you can see how much time you have, and so that we can leave some time for the debate. But I know that Monika is generally very accurate.
It's a great pleasure and honor to be here in this meeting, because I feel it like that way, that we learn each other and share as much as we can. So I would like to introduce you the model that we prepared last few years. So we spent a lot of time and have a great cooperation with our partners about the sensitive career management model. So I would like to share with you some results from the qualitative research and implication, but in general in the bigger picture that was introduced today in the morning. So I would start with some objectives with theoretical foundation, just a brief of them, to better understand the psychological approach to environment, which is not so obvious for all of us. And it was not at the beginning of my work also. That's why I would like to give some words about the methodology, results, and implication. So environmental sensitivity, in a way we understand it, like nowadays, having in mind all new theories and concepts in psychology, we understand it as an umbrella term, like a term which covers different ideas, different approaches, different concepts and theories that explain how does it happen that some of us are more sensitive to environment than the others. So according to them, the sensory processing sensitivity as a temperamental trait, like one of those approaches explained that some of us have great intensity of traits like other one, like extroversion, introversion, and so on, which makes us more social person or less social person. So sensory processing sensitivity is not like a simple sensory sensitivity, is also about a processing. So if I choose the only thing that I would like you to remember from this presentation is that sensitivity is not about being fragile or being vulnerable. It is about perception and processing. So the perception and processing is the main point of my speech. So we knew that sensory processing sensitivity is an inherited temperamental trait, like more in common with nervous system than with socialization. So the intensity of the trait in general may have a great and important influence in our physical, in our mental, and also social functioning. So that is not easy to imagine that importance of this particular might be visible in this situation when highly sensitive people adapt to working condition and living condition. I think that for the bigger picture, it suits well with the idea of beauty, with the idea of sustainability, and that we cooperate together. One of the approach that explains us differential sustainability is differential sustainability concepts. From the late 60s, we knew that there is a group of people who is particularly or specifically sensitive for stress. This approach was developed in medicine. It was developed also by managers trying to figure out how does it happen that some people are more in risk group of burnout or some disease, also those with mental and physical health. So we knew that negative stimuli can be a factor that is particularly important in some people for being more vulnerable. So by negative stimuli, we understand not only stress-related factors, all of them are stress-related factors, life is stress-related factor. So this is also about unfavorable physical condition. It is also about criticism. It is also about mobbing, injustice, time and result pressures, which was very famous in last years in management, and also objective treatment, like we have a group of people who are just delegated to do their task. Translating it into a career management language, it is also acting below one's competences because of inappropriate environment. So also with the risk of burnout. At the beginning of 2000, there was an approach which can be comprehensive to the first one, because the minority of people who are especially sensitive for stress-related factor are also especially sensitive for the good factors, supportive one, protective factors, which means that positive stimuli in a group of people who are highly sensitive might be especially benefit. So by positive factor, we understand also a proper feedback, non-violent communication, also support, also clear rules at work, also possibility of participatory style, which means I participate in making decision, not like I'm an object of the decision. So translating this into the career language, it can be benefits as creativity, as responsibility, as loyalty, also high social competences, being able to work together, and also analytical approach, which is one of the things that is important in those depth of processing approach. So our objective for last years was to figure out, to prepare, based on the previous research, based on the current knowledge, based on the knowledge we have so far, the interactive relationship between the feature of high sensitivity and working condition. So in terms of variables that are important, relevant to this relationship. So we prepare focus groups, also analyze the qualitative, analyze desk research, and methods that we use to collect the research that were made so far. So the model was based on latest research concerning sensory processing sensitivity, also environmental sensitivity, conducted with the use of systematic review, also desk research, as I said before. This is a part of promotion project that we cooperate together with the Metropolitan City of Rome, also among other. So the results of qualitative research using focus groups and individual interviews with highly sensitive employees, but also in general with managers from different professions, using the SAMI structure interview helps us to understand that high sensitivity, which is not so surprisingly, may bring a high quality of work. So the commitment to the implementation of task, responsibility, loyalty to employer, and consciousness and positive interpersonal relation in the workplace, like high competences, those personal competences, social one, depth of processing, which is very characterized for highly sensitive people. So working conditions are particularly important for high quality of work. That's thing that we knew. Which include also management style. And also styles and physical conditions. So comprehensive support for highly sensitive people in the workplace should take into account the interaction of characteristics of being highly sensitive and condition of the environment that support us or not very much. So we adapt the Brammer's approach model, which was originally prepared for psychological support, which means that on the side of employee, we have a person of employee, not only personality. We have values, we have personality trait, we have meta trait, that's how we call it, of environmental sensitivity, also personal well-being. So at the employee part, it is also employee competences, something we expect as a managers, as HR specialists, like knowledge, skills, attitude, all the group of so-called soft competences and all the group of so-called hard competences, professional one. So the conditions that are for the employee side, it means organizational culture, it means management style, organizational climate, but also physical working condition. So that might be influence on the person of employee, but also their competences. But from the other side, the employee as a person and their competence can be aware of, have an opportunity to change condition. So if we look at this like that we have an employee, those transition, those interaction with work environment, we have to focus on this possibility of being flexible. So the flexibility and adaptive skill for both sides. On the side of work environment, it is being ready to put some changes. Maybe not revolution, but evolution. So all of them can be beneficial for adjustment, satisfaction, efficiency, and at the end, individual and organizational performance. So if we put emphasis on employee, that might be risks. If we put only emphasis on work condition, that's also not the way we would like to see it like that. So let's think about it as a transaction, as an interaction. So if we put a pressure only on employee that person have to adapt for harsh environment because that's the way we act in our company, the satisfaction for sure will be lower, the efficiency for sure will be lower, so everything might not be good also for organizational performance. But if we think about it as a wider concept, like we can interact in this position, we can learn about personal traits, especially environmental sensitivity one, the adjustment, satisfaction, efficiency, and also individual and organizational performance might grow. So, sorry. So some conclusions and some implication. So having in mind designing, because I think it is a proper word nowadays, designing workplace and organize them in a way which is beneficial for employee and employer, because it is not about special needs. It's all about thinking not only about the majority. So reliable knowledge of environmental sensitivity is very important. Taking into account this knowledge in management of highly sensitive people and working with team and group of employees is particularly important. So flexibility, autonomy, predictability, and other traits for the healthy workplace are beneficial to create conditions for the manifestation of professional potential, which might be great if we think about the other personal and temperamental trait, resulting for the intensification of environmental sensitivity. So, participatory style, taking into account the other people's opinion, respecting needs, not any special need, because those are needs that all of us have. Majority might have quite a different one, which doesn't mean that minority is less important. Creating a culture of the organization, like perception that we are different in sensitivity to environment, providing reliable knowledge on high sensitivity, not only about being more aware to cry often, it is more aware to depth of processing. So task-oriented style, high competence in managerial position, which is also I'm going to talk about it a little bit tomorrow. Not dividing employees into a high sensitive or low sensitive, because it is really good way to labeling people and excluding them after that. So predisposition to work with people and need to prepare and particularly emotionally work like something that support us, all of us, not only the majority of people. This is our research team. I would like to thank for last few years of work, and also in the name of beauty, I share with you the pictures of Lublin made by our coordinator Magda Janiak, and I hope that you enjoy the presentation. We invite you to follow all the projects about high sensitivity we made so far, especially with cooperation with Metropolitan City of Rome. So thank you very much for your attention.
Grazie.
Thank you. So before we have questions or comments from the audience, Monika, I would like you to clarify certain things. It's very important that you highlighted meta traits, but perhaps, I don't know, perhaps I was distracted. I didn't listen carefully, but we have to say that this is a phenotype, so it is coming from the interaction, from genetics, and environment, so interaction between the two. And it's something different. This is something you clarified very well. You said it very well. It's different from the trend in design, interior design and architecture. So environmental psychology, as they call it, especially in northern Italy, this is quite common and widespread. That is to say, designing the environment based on personality. But you said this is not the only aspect to consider. And then I would like to ask Paolo Anzuini also to say something, because this is also linked to connective intelligence and not necessarily expert professionals have the same cultural background or professional background. They work together with different backgrounds. So it is important to say that this trait, this temperament trait, according to study, is occurring in 20–30% of the population, which means that 25% of the population has this phenotype. So is particularly sensitive, and psychology and also other science, neuroscience, neurobiology, have widely said and demonstrated that inside and outside is a continuous interaction between inside and outside. So we have to rethink, redesign places where we spend most of our time, and the workplace is one of these. So my question is the following, because this is a discussion we have also in environmental sensitivity and sensory processing sensitivity. So in terms of connective intelligence, what's happening? Because initially psychology and then neurosciences followed, especially in the last decade, even if this trait was identified only in the 90s. Now, neurobiology, human resources management, design, which model would you like to propose based on your experience? And the same question to Paolo, the architect.
If I understand correctly, with the help of translator, it is about the model that explains how does it happen that we are more sensitive for the environment in general, like which of interaction factors might be important, like those biological sensitivity to context that might be changed by the environment. That was the question? No?
Yes, what question is about the interaction, actually.
Okay.
How do you advise the cooperation, the research among these perspectives?
Yeah.
Biology, human resource.
Yes, first of all, I would like to start that this is very important, the cooperation between different disciplines, because not the only psychological approach will not explain how does it happen that environment might be particularly important or influential for a person and their personality and temperamental trait. So from the other hand, like that, what we know from the genetics and also Asari research with twins, that even with the same genetics, we can be differently sensitive for the environment, because the quality of environment, which is especially important for the very beginning, early years of life. And this approach was explained very well by American experts from the Utah, which try to help us to understand that biological sensitivity to context is about the functioning of the early stages of your life. So not a proper, poor related environment might be something that make you particularly sensitive for different stimuli from the environment. Also, though, all those research about the psychological, temperamental, inherited trait helps us to understand that this is not something that we choose to be sensitive or more or less sensitive. Like some of us have perception of some stimuli, some of us don't. So this is our approach, the way how we process stimuli. And the research were even before calling in high sensitivity, but they mostly call it rumination, like we think about things which is not so necessary to think about. And then there was a depth of processing approach from Craig. So trying to answer the question, the cooperation from different disciplines is particularly important because only psychologists will not have influence on the environment, work environment, and only neuroscience will not give an influence on the application approach of the knowledge about high sensitivity that we know so far.
Sì. Allora, grazie per la domanda.
Thank you for your question. I'll try and not to step into things that will be presented by the next speakers. And I'll go back to what I said in my presentation. When Mrs. Fabriani was speaking about the relationship between inside and outside, so indoor and outdoor space, I was thinking about some technologies that are applied to different workplaces and spaces with the introduction of LED lights. So sort of compensation of the light perception during the day with different light bulb and light sensor that kept lighting constant. So sensors, this is what sensors do. This technology did not work, it did not compensate for perception, so inside and outside perception. And I would like to add something. I would like to tell you about an experience I had in some countries abroad. It's not first-hand experience. These are people I followed up in elementary and middle school, and these were parents. And the first question they asked to the dean of the school or the organization was not about education, but I would like to see the external spaces of your schools. For instance, do you have a garden? This is what parents asked. So we are passing on something to the next generation. And this is important. They have to go outside the workspace. Going to school for pupils is work. So it's important to transfer all the activities outside, collaborative activities or work should be transferred outside. This is important to support research also for the future. Any question from the audience? Comments? Anything you would like to add to what was said so far?
Interlocutoria.
While you're thinking about possible question, Monica, I have another question. In academic literature, there is a confusion about two concepts. And people coming from the world of design, management, and architecture, this can be important. Hypersensitivity and sensory processing sensitivity. They're different. Hypersensitivity and sensory processing sensitivity.
Hypersensitivity and sensory processing, intensity of sensory processing sensitivity. Yes, so the hypersensitivity is explained from the level of clinical psychology, which means that we treat it as some defects on a level of neurosystem. So also, which means speaking language that is quite easy, but there are some really small damages at the level of the brain, which means not everything is functioning in a proper way. When we talk or write about the level or intensity of sensory processing sensitivity, we explain it from the level of personality psychology and also evolutionary perspective, which means the percentage of people who are highly sensitive is too high to explain it as a disease or explain it as a problem which we can deal with, because according to the source, from 15 to 30%, it's too much to explain it from the level of clinical psychology and changes from the level of central neurosystem. So it means that intensity of a trait is particularly natural in our society, which also from evolutionary perspective means that we need highly sensitive people, and the trait is not characteristic, calling environmental sensitivity only for human. It is characteristic for most of the species, which means that also animals needs those one who are particularly sensitive and will smell different, not typical smell at the first, or I'm trying to explain it in words which I think in Polish. So this is about, from the evolutionary perspective, it is important to have people who are highly sensitive, who are low sensitive, who are sensitive for some of stimulus, but not for all of them. So the first, the level of explanation about the hypersensitivity is the reaction is inappropriate for the stimuli. In sensory processing sensitivity, the reaction is proper for that kind of nervous system with all of those connections between dendrons and so on in nervous system. Yeah.
Grazie Monika. Quindi ipersensitività.
Thank you. So hypersensitivity is clinical and SPS is phenotypic trait and is an adaptation strategy. And this is very important. Also, the latest research of neurobiology highlight that it's an adaptation strategy to survive and improve the species. There are two questions, and please, we should have the roving mic to hear the question.
But for me, it will be the maybe not final conclusions, but conclusion that point us, in the case of this project, that most valuable research, most valuable practical solution will create on this multidisciplinary area. Yes, so this project is a very interesting in this field of cooperation between many other maybe different disciplines of knowledge, and of course in relation to practice. So it's very good information for us that we need to find out in future when we will try to present new projects, a new area of cooperation, to find out this area will be linked many disciplines, typical multidisciplinary projects. That's all.
Sì. effettivamente questo aspetto della...
Yes, and this aspect, it's important. Perhaps there is something more to add. That is to say, we should go from multidisciplinarity, so many together, to something that can be interdisciplinarity. And I don't want to give you any technical terms. In other words, we have to create a mosaic of discipline, albeit they remain independent. Another question. It's not a question, it's more than a comment. As to interaction between internal and external workspace, something I notice in myself is that when you work inside, at a certain point, I feel the need to work outside. So the interaction between internal and external space is also an interaction with people with different skills. It's something that is very important. Also, during the coronavirus pandemic, we realized that we suffered because we were living indoor, and there we went outside, and this was demonstrated while, so for instance, in designing a new environment, and for instance, flat with gardens or terraces were sold like hot pies. So this is very important. An external space is important not only for your dwelling but also for working. So the workplace, you should have an external space where people have a different relationship. So we should really gain back this important relationship with the external environment, with outside. Yes, and during the day we will see also some other experiences, some extraordinary projects that put together. There is a sort of new nature indoor, not only outdoor. 1 minute. In 1 minute, you really evoked an experience I made a couple of years ago in UK. And actually, it was not a workspace, but I would like to tell you about it. This was a project for a catering area, a sort of restaurant. Catering activities. And when we had to decide colors, I tried to look at different studies that have been carried out by American universities, UK university, and actually I was surprised to learn that the color that promotes greater sensitivity, that triggers greater sensitivity, is not red, as I think, but blue. There is a reason for this. Different studies were carried out. And I wanted to say that if we consider not only this experiment that was carried out, and please read it in literature, very interesting, but if we consider the natural context where we're born, red is very visible. It's not very visible, sorry, almost zero. Red in nature is present only in some flowers or lavas from volcanoes. So red is less than 1% in some countries.
sempre senza loro sapienza dall'etere.
Prego, che c'è il slide.
No, c'è una immagine che abbiamo a sfondo che è un po' sintetizza. Sì.
Allora, devo dire che sono contenta perché mi sono...
I'm very pleased because I'm actually wearing blue. I'm dressed in blue, so in some way I adapted to what my colleague Palondrini said at the end. So let's now move on to our next session or panel of this very interesting day. Of this conference, which will continue tomorrow, even though tomorrow we'll deal more with skills. Now, today we'll be talking about integrated urban plans.
Allora, diciamo...
Yes. So, as I was saying, urban integrated plans, that is a tool envisaged within the framework of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. It's a very important one, and this was mentioned in the introduction by the institutional representatives because it's something that will have a huge potential to implement all the concepts that have been touched on, albeit concisely. This panel, like the previous one and the following ones, will highlight our desire to give evidence of connection and interactivity, and we have various panelists involved. We have an economist. I will introduce them in more detail later, but at any rate, so an economist somebody who will examine this topic from a legal point of view. Then we have Professor Giancotto, and then Fabrizio Finucci of the University of Roma. I'll introduce them. Then we have Manfredi Valeriani and Christian, who is here with us, Valeriani, and then in connection, we have Christian Iaione of the Lewis University, and they'll be talking about this topic both from an economic perspective and also assessing legal aspects. And then we have Professor Ciancotti sitting next to me. And connected with us, we have Fabrizio Finucci. The names are so important that perhaps I think it's even superfluous to introduce them, but maybe I'll do so before each one takes the floor. So without further ado, because we have a very rich panel, the topic is indeed very interesting, so I'd give the floor to Mr. Valeriani right away, who will talk about the economic implications of this matter. Yeah, you have the floor. Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank you for being here. Good morning to everybody. I will provide a quick introduction from the standpoint of governance, because I deal with economics, but I also with politology, and given the cross-sectoral nature of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan and everything that derives from it before the National Recovery and Resilience Plan in terms of governance and below this plan, because as we'll see with the other speakers, basically we are seeing this tool as an opportunity and an opportunity for innovation to introduce principles at the global level, which we're all aware of, and picking up on the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, for example, or the Green Deal at European level. So going from the international to the global level and translating this, starting from National Recovery and Resilience Plan, focusing on integrated urban plans at the local level. This translation is not so easy because it has to be connected with the strategy of the Metropolitan City of Rome capital, and has to be translated into indicators, tools, and so on. And this happens with by means of a project which the Office of Sciences partnership between universities and the public administration. And as you hear from the other panelists, involves the various expertise, because from a legal perspective and from a politological point of view and from a governance perspective, we need to translate these aspects into feasibility and concrete projects. We will be focusing on various urban integrated plans in well-defined areas, in line with the vulnerability indices of the National Statistics Institute, and all the innovation involved. Innovation in terms of governance, from a standpoint of participation, which is something that we've heard about in various urban integrated plans. We've had participation initiatives since 1997, but which were never implemented or were never supported, and were never actually put into practice in the various project implementation process. So we go from participation and in this, and then we study innovation, both from the standpoint of urban development and also from a legal perspective. And in this respect, the Sustainable Innovation Lab, headed by Luis, which is a branch of this Office of Sciences that I'll be talking in more detail later, is offering to develop some climate mitigation and climate contract modalities that can assure better co-participation of private individuals too, and allow private individuals to take responsibility in the implementation of projects with the municipality and protection of the city. And also was referenced in various documents, which are often a weak player with regard to climate washing practices that private individuals can put into practice, and cities are unequipped to tackle with. Then I can go into a little more detail afterwards, and if for further details, I think I will leave it to Professor Iaione, who deals with the coordination theme and with more legal aspects.
Vuoi completare?
Christian, do you want to supplement? Yes. I'll pick up on what Manfredi Valeriani said, first and foremost, just to provide a historical reconstruction. Namely, the Metropolitan City of Rome has interpreted this challenge of integrated urban plans as a challenge, an urban planning challenge, so from an integrated point of view, not just physical and structural, but also from a social and governance-related perspective. And I think this needs to be acknowledged, because we need to recall that the integrated urban plans of the Metropolitan City of Rome are the ones that have the greatest funds. So the courage shown by politicians and the administration of the Metropolitan City of Rome is something that I've come across that often. I have never seen such interest in an innovative idea. Where does innovation lie? Well, it lies in combining three universities, which isn't something so obvious. The fact that an attempt has been made to ensure that knowledge and experts of the three universities that separately were dealing with the City of Rome or other cities in Italy and in the European Union was a major innovation. This has allowed us to build integrated urban plans that, first and foremost, share an important underlying philosophy, namely one of the requests of this investment of 2.2. So the idea of projects and co-governance, i.e. the idea that physical spaces need to be designed in view of their future management and maintenance so that they can be taken care of, maintained, managed, governed by those in the third sector or socio-economic forces in the general and more or less formal groups and individuals who can take care of them. So I find this obviously is tied to the principle of horizontal subsidiarity and communion and the principle of sustainable development, because all these projects are aimed at creating forms of a fair technological environmental transition. The other major innovation were the integrated urban plans, Santa Maria della Pietà, Torbella, Monaca. Unfortunately, I have a lot of background noise because the speakers are speaking.
Che riguardano tutte le 121
So there are 120 municipalities of the city of Rome, and one that deals with culture, sports, and the fight against obstacles for disabled persons are all the product of this collaboration between the metropolitan city and the universities and the innovation of this Office of Science, as the experts who are allowed by the public administration to provide their time, human resources, is an innovation that I found a few examples of in Italy and in the European Union. I'm not in Rome right now because I'm traveling between Amsterdam and Rome. And in Amsterdam, I'm working with the University of Amsterdam and the other Amsterdam universities under the umbrella of the Office of Sciences created by the City of Amsterdam. So it would be good to continue this work. And again, I'd like to thank the Metropolitan City of Rome that has allowed us to initiate this process, this cooperation, and to work with esteemed and stimulating colleagues, because we've come up with many ideas and projects, and we hope to be able to pursue them in the coming years. Thank you. And I apologize perhaps having taken more time than I was allowed to. I'd like to just interrupt the panel we have the honor now to have the Deputy Mayor who will bring in his greetings. So I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity. No, he's saying that he is willing to listen. Okay. Unfortunately, he's speaking off mic and I can't hear him. So, we have really been lucky enough to set up a working group. I really consider it a high-level working group. So you tell me, Deputy Mayor, whenever you're ready, just let us know. We're all here together. Okay, fine, thank you. So, I leave the floor to you. Good morning. I, too, would like to thank you for this invitation. I'd like to thank the Metropolitan City of Rome for this invitation and the confidence given to the three universities in this process within the framework of integrated urban plans. I'd like to pick up on what Christian was said to tell you, first of all, in a very concise way, what this experience of integrated urban plans consisted of and the future prospects that we're building thanks to the investments that the Metropolitan City of Rome is making. Integrated urban plans were identified by the Metropolitan City of Rome And 5 projects were identified, 5 plans that considered various areas in the territory of Rome and surrounding territory. The first one concerned, I'm going to stop my timer, otherwise I'm afraid I'll speak for too long. The first one is tied to the design of sports districts, so districts for well-being and disability throughout the metropolitan area. So it's a system of various interventions that involve the creation of sports facilities in accessible urban parks, but that has also made it possible to identify projects tied to restoring the function of various abandoned areas. Now, of course, the main issue, given since the leitmotif of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan is inclusion. So this project sees sports as one of the main tools to improve quality of life. The second one concerns cultural districts that involve various projects, about 70 in total. Some are situated in the territory of Roma Capitale, capital, and others in other municipalities, to identify, in juxtaposition with the topic of healthcare, to create an environment that can favor, through the development of arts and culture in general, something that can favor knowledge and identify and create job opportunities by implementing innovation, which the previous speakers mentioned, and creativeness. Then we have the 3 integrated urban plans that are more directly related to the territory of Rome, which is one of the municipalities of the metropolitan city of Roma Capitale, and namely they concern the Solidarity District, namely the intervention in Corviale aimed at regenerating urban fabrics and involves some social and political policies. And then there's the district of well-being that concerns Santa Maria Pietà, so architecture and medicine, so an integrated action to improve through healthcare and well-being, improve social working conditions and the adoption of new lifestyles. And then last but not least, the sustainability project that links together Torbella Monica and the public residential area with the university. And Christian talked about innovation, but on behalf of Metropolitan City of Rome, we have drawn up some guidelines. So we have accompanied all the activities of the municipalities involved, and we discovered that they saw this as a unique opportunity. We obviously were able to see that these unexpected funds for all the municipalities were a huge opportunity for all municipalities to engage in activities. So we obviously accompanied them, and perhaps Fabrizio Finucci will talk more about this, and he'll be taking the floor after me. But the actions in these 2 areas, sports and culture, has given rise to a number of opportunities to intervene on our heritage and to upgrade the quality of built heritage in terms of energy efficiency, and obviously making these facilities safe from a seismic point of view. And this also concerned functional aspects. So, for example, inclusion involved, the work on inclusion also involved lifting architectural barriers and the recovery also of spaces in order to set up new activities, the recovery of historical buildings. Let us just think about all the built heritage in the Castelli Romani area and all the buildings or modern buildings too that have been abandoned, and of course then the issue of energy efficiency, which has been the engine of all these actions regarding all passive systems to curb or to increase energy efficiency. But I think there are people more qualified for so actions to help save water and the adoption and inclusion of environmental criteria, minimal ones. And this work that has been carried out was very interesting because it's a system of various interventions that are part of a bigger picture, and obviously in a looking ahead, I don't know whether there's the image that we wanted, but it's, well, okay, it really describes the project that we had. So here it is, that's it. Thank you very much. And then we'll talk about this later. So the idea that we have developed with the Metropolitan City of Rome is the one mentioned by our friends of Lewis, is to build the Office of Sciences for the Metropolitan City of Rome, where in the future we'll be able to work through our various skills belonging to different disciplines. So we have these 3 labs, the Innovation Lab that will be taken care of by Lewis, then Urban Lab, which involves the Sapienza, and the Roaming Lab that will concern Roma 3. I'll talk about the Urban Lab. I've broken down this presentation into 2 steps because on the one hand, I thought it was important to tell you about what has been done in the recent past, but on the other hand, I'd also like to tell you about what will happen in the future, because on the part of the Metropolitan City of Rome, attention has been paid not just what we've done in the recent past with a bit of frenzy, given the deadlines that we had with the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, but also the subsequent steps. So the Urban Lab, what is this supposed to be? Well, it's supposed to be a place, a sort of showcase, a physical one and a digital one at the same time, which narrates what happens within the metropolitan territory in terms of transformation, to allow citizens to learn about all the development stages of individual projects. And this can also be an opportunity to disseminate the results of the work carried out, and also an opportunity for an exchange and an opportunity to communicate. A periodical activity that can be carried out within the Urban Lab. I was organizing before with the officers of the Metropolitan City of Rome. This would be an excellent site for the Urban Lab of the Metropolitan City of Rome, and will create an interface with the other labs. Now, of course, the choice of the Urban Lab, i.e. this place where the Metropolitan City will be able to report on the implementation processes, the urban regeneration processes, is based on a number of examples carried out in the major cities around the world. And we've had a few in recent years in Italy. And then there's the Pavillon de l'Arsenal in Paris, and they're a bit more far-sighted now. So in 1988, this is the physical place where building activities in Paris are presented, and it's an opportunity that also makes it possible to explore trends and better understand future prospects for the transformation of the urban territory, and they do this through in various ways, through exhibitions and the building and creation of maps. And there's this permit exhibition which illustrates the developments and the transformation of the city through an interactive digital system. And the same activity was carried out in Barcelona. There's the Innova Lab. That's another interesting example that we consider to try and understand what this model was all about. I was lucky enough to see this extraordinary urban lab in Shanghai. So it's interesting to see and understand that there is a place of knowledge, a place that shortens the distance between governance tools and citizenships and citizens at large, that citizens that finance these actions. And I'm moving on to my conclusion. So in Italy, we already have some examples. We have the Urban Lab in Turin, set up in 2005. These generally were set up upon the initiative of the public sector, but with agreements with the public and private social and economic players. And lastly, with the Foundation for Urban Innovation in Bologna, and Cristian Iaione touched on this. So I'll leave you with this dream. And if we realize that Rome is a very complex city, the territory of the metropolitan city is a very complex one, but the idea, the dream is to have a physical space in the heart of the city that can be a place for information, documentation, monitoring, and exhibition of all the activities underway. Well, I think this is a facility which a territory like this deserves. So on the one hand, I'd like to thank the Metropolitan City of Rome for having given us the opportunity to think about, and we hope to thank it again if it gives us the opportunity to actually create it, build it.
And now we give the floor to Fabrizio Finucci. Hi everybody. I'll set the time. Good day, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I apologize for not being here with you. I am associate professor of the University Roma 3. I listened to what you said, and I would like to start by saying that the PNRR, so the Recovery and Resilience Plan, is coming in a historical point in time. We have seen in this period, thanks to the use of these resources, the resources of the Recovery and Resilience Plan, that the relationship between public administration, society, and the academia changed. What do I mean by this? There is a mutual relationship, mutual exchange, and transfer of know-how from the public administration to the academia and vice versa, and trivially also in terms of relationship, technical, documentary, administrative relationship. We have seen something extraordinary going on, and some rules have to be drafted anew, and some of these academic thoughts were translated in the territory. The approach shown before is just an example of this. So a new subject The new subject is the Office for Sciences of the city, and within the office there are 3 labs that are coordinated and run by 3 universities together. So also at academic level, relationship have been renewed. Now we are complementary, coordinated, and close dialogue with Roma Capitale, Roma Metropolitana, so the different entities at municipal level. And this is an interesting thing. Professor Giancotti was speaking about the fact that it was possible to analyze all the projects one by one, and this was very enriching, showing the diversity, the different needs of each territory, because each territory is so peculiar. So our answer was just partial. That is to say, we want to have a collective shared approach that is trying to respond to all the different needs. But we still have to improve our common approach. And the three labs that we propose share this common approach. One is proposed by Louis University and is looking at innovation processes in public sector. Then the one by Roma 3 and is a sort of social creative interaction, and then the Urban Lab of Sapienza that is rationalizing all the information and communication flow, giving us a framework for a better monitoring practice. So we see that we have different approaches, but these are 3 systems that interact within the same structure with the same common goal. And I think that this is very important. We have been redrafting our approaches, so this is important. So what can we do with Roaming Lab by Roma 3? We have been analyzing the individual projects, and therefore we have been analyzing more in depth answering questions. It's a sort of itinerant lab that comes from the close relationship I have with Professor Caveri, with whom we have been adventuring together in this important project. We have been redesigning spaces, looking at collective joint spaces, looking at the different paradigms of different economic trend. We have this CIRCO, which is an acronym, a project that is an important project within our lab. What does it mean? We have to physically cross the territory. This is an added value. And better use of spaces. Why is it important? Because we want these spaces to be hybridated from a functional and factorial way. Transformation projects need some catalyzer, social catalyzer, stakeholders who are active on the territory, but who often disappear or cannot be probed with traditional methodology that is based on a quantitative statistical analysis. So the only way to really hybridate spaces with these stakeholders is to be present in the place. That's why we have a roaming lab, because we want to be as close as possible to the territory involved with these new projects. Of course, it's not only up to us, because international research has been very much involved in this. In France, for instance, we have Provenance Architecturale, which is a bill that is going to be a law. So transformation at community level is taking place in architecture lab and studios. And architecture are there not because they are supervising the building yard, but because they want to be present in the territory. And in Milan, we have a model of ricercazione, which is carried out with labs, and there are university spaces that preside over transformation. And this is a model that we find in Rome with Roma Capitale, with city labs like in Corviale, Bella Monica, Porto Fluviale, and other projects. Professor, I apologize. Please, can you draw your conclusion? Of course, I'll draw my conclusion. I'm very sorry, because what you're saying is rather interesting, and you are giving a lot of interesting inputs, and but the time is short, so if you can draw your conclusion. I will. No worry, I close. I don't want to be rude. No, absolutely, I understand, absolutely. We want to monitor the project, but not what is typically done, because this is something we already have been doing. We want to explore territories based on spaces that can be activated in parallel with the poles, both formally and informally, and then using a roaming lab to organize formal or informal groups in the territory that guarantee social sustainability of the project, seamless management, and interfaces that develop also in the future in a sustainable way. So our project have to be sustainable, because it is important to understand, once the projects are over, how can society make them self-sustainable. So hybridization is important, but one of the documents we have written together with roaming lab and with 3 university labs is to find the time scale, so timing, the approaches to work together. And research comes back to the territory in a practical way, and we have to be innovative and top quality in our action. And we have to thank Città Metropolitana, Roma Capitale for all these projects. Thank you very much for your candid. We thank you, and I would like to invite the Deputy Mayor to come to close the first panel, the first session.
Molte grazie.
Thank you very much. It was my destiny to have me come when you're speaking of the integrated projects, urban integrated plan. I'm sorry, but we have an emergency at the municipality, the emergency about migrants. Our mayor, unfortunately, is affected with coronavirus, and I had to replace him everywhere. I have met the chair of the Association of Architects. It's a pleasure. We know each other quite well, and I'm very happy to have met all these academics. Roma Municipale is very much involved. Sometimes we have difficulties in making our citizens understand what a metropolitan city is, città metropolitana. Sometimes I think we are the municipality of Rome. Sometimes I think we are the Chamber of Commerce. We are an entity that is quite challenging to understand. I can say I am the mayor of Colleferro and the deputy mayor of Roma Metropolitana Capitale, and they ask me, how can you have all these different hats? It's very difficult. However, for urban integrated plan, with these plans, we could make us known a little better and work for the future of the territory. Otherwise, we were only well known for all the problems that Rome has, and for high school problems. Problems are still there, but for high school, we received quite a lot of money with the PNRR, so the Resilience and Recovery Plan. Of course, money is never enough, but we could modernize our schools. This beautiful villa used to be a school, and nearby there is still the school. Now it is used for other purposes. So integrated urban plans, in my experience as a metropolitan deputy mayor, were an important opportunity to see what was really important for the city. Connecting the city of Rome and the metropolitan areas work together. And in a historical moment, we could really work together. The city of Rome was separated from the municipality of the province, as if the ring road was separating, was just cutting Rome from the provinces all around. And there was a great separation. People inside Rome and people outside Rome in the province. This is not the daughter of this metropolitan culture that we try to promote and to improve. And to improve, of course, the speech. And we know that only knowledge, mastering some sense of belonging, some common themes can really help us in taking up the challenges in front of us. The previous speakers discussed this at length. I am a great fan and advocate of urban integrated plan. We discussed it some days ago in Helsinki when the Italian delegation was made up of Rome, Naples and Turin, which are the three metropolitan cities, and we could discuss together the importance of the urban integrated plans. That represented a challenge also from a political viewpoint, because we could really make a big stride forward, and we were not prepared for this. We were only thinking about maintenance project, while with this plan we had to just make a stride forward. And it was a paradigm shift. can a dormant, almost abolished entity plan quality of life for their citizens? Yes, yes, we can, because all actions were taken. I have a lot of anecdotes to tell you about all the meetings we had at Capitolium level, and little villages with 120 inhabitants, where the mayor goes with his keys and in the pockets and open the doors of the municipality. He's the only employee. They have no employed person of the municipality, only the mayor. And Agrigento, Cuneo, Nuoro, for us are very small municipalities, but they're far from Rome. While we also have very small municipalities very close to Rome, where the mayor directly signs identity cards because there are no employees, as I said. So the capital city, Rome, has the same rules and regulation as a small town with 100 inhabitants. This is a big challenge, but we took up this challenge in order to work together jointly and be perceived as a single unit, not only by scholars, but also all those the citizens who can perceive such a big paradigm shift. I hosted the Special Olympics last year, and I was very surprised by this important event, because sports can really conjugate many different things. We are used to see champions, elite champions. I practice sports, and we are really fans. We had the Ryder Cup now in Rome. We had the European equestrians, and one in Montelibretti and one in Guidonia in the province of Rome. But sports and disability put together really have a completely different vision. You understand how big and important they are only when you witness Special Olympics. And we have more than 60 sports plants that can be made accessible to disabled sports people, thanks to the integrated urban plans. And this is an important message. We hear that nobody should be left alone, or nobody should be left back, but many people are left behind, and this is not nice. So I think that we can really be proud of these urban integrated plans, and we have to keep working, waiting for 2026 and see with our eyes these big results and present it to people who are no longer disheartened, but can really be joyful and appreciate the good things that we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for these words of hope and confidence. And we agree entirely with what you said. That's why we're here now. I leave the floor to Maria Fabiani. Yes, just some housekeeping messages. We're now going to have a 25-minute coffee break, which are absolutely necessary. It's during breaks that we process information, so absolutely essential to think about what we've heard and come up with questions for the next panels. And now, this is not just a technical message, Alessandro. I'd like you to follow the indication speakers we're going to have a light lunch at 1:20 which will be prepared and served by the Vocational Training Center of Castelfusano, so one of our training centers, vocational training centers. And then I hope somebody else will provide some information, because there's another interesting aspect that has to do with today. So, because we have some peer learning, because this is a project. They are headed by Chef Palmier and Maître Ventura, and we have the students of the third year last year, but they are accompanied by the students of the first year who have as their tutors the third-year students who are about to finish their term. So again, congratulations and thank you. So I'd like to thank the various panelists. I'd like you to be back here at 5 to 12. Thank you.